Good evening. Hope everyone is doing well. I guess I'm about a minute late. My apologies for that. Just right before I click live. Um, okay. Constant stuff. Um, right before I click live, I had a notice on Facebook that I wanted to look into. Apparently, they're changing some of the admin assist features, and I guess I guess the new group that I started must be in at least one of the first rounds for these new features or whatever. So it was just telling me that. No big deal, but I wanted to make sure what it was. So I have got a ton of links to cover. I'm going to try to kind of do it briefly. There are some things that are big news today that I'm not going to cover today. I want to give it another day or two. I will give my current thoughts on it. And so there's a big story right now going around about how apparently there was this reporter that was a member of some kind of a Signal chat. I don't have Signal. I don't know anything about the platform. But apparently he was part of this Signal chat in which there were individuals which included J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth and others. And supposedly they were talking about the strike that hadn't happened yet, but the strike that went on in Yemen. And again, I want to wait a couple of days just to see how this shakes out. Pete Hegseth kind of downplays it and pretty much denies it. But I'm going to be real with you, like I'm always real with you. I saw Pete speak after he got off a plane. And I'm telling you right now, that dude was lying like you wouldn't believe. It was clear. So we'll see. I mean, in the whole big scheme of things, I don't think it's a big deal for a couple of reasons. For one, they were talking about the Houthis, so it's not like they were talking about Russia or China or Iran or something like that. So a little bit different scale there. Also, if that reporter would have breathed a word of that to anybody else, especially an enemy, he would have been strung up by his nads, without a doubt. So, because without a doubt, there's no way to argue that that is treason, and I'm sure that they wouldn't pass up on that charge. So, again, in the big scheme of things, is it really that big of a deal? Is it as big of a deal as what the media is making it? Nah, not really. But it's one of those things to where, let's say it's true, and I have a feeling it probably is, but let's say it's true. It's just something that the left can nitpick at, and that's all they can do, really, is nitpick. That's, they claim everything is big, so, what are you going to do with that? Is what it is. Drama queens will be drama queens. But we'll see where that goes. I want to give it a couple of days. I'm sure a little more information will come out here and there on the situation, and we'll be able to get a better feel for exactly what happened. So lots of stuff going on, and it's like the circus sideshow. It really truly is. A lot of it is, to be honest. Really truly is. So again, we'll cover that probably more in detail either tomorrow or the next day, and we may never cover it because it may be nothing. We'll see. I think, again, in the big scheme of things, I think it's nothing. We've got far more pressing things. I know I've heard the last several days about them shutting down the Department of Education, how horrible that's going to be. And you've got all of these people related to education that speak in and saying, oh my goodness, we're not going to be able to do this. We're not going to. And I heard everything from even the free school lunch program, okay? So the free school lunch program isn't under the Department of Education to begin with. So that's absolute misrepresentation right there. That's under the Department of Agriculture. So, it's not even part of that. And I know they took cuts too and all of that stuff, but I do believe Trump and others have came right out and said that, hey, look, it's not like we're just throwing it all out. We're going to keep the programs that are really doing things, like the special education stuff and whatnot. The Pell Grants was mentioned. You're going to make sure that they keep that stuff. And I think they will. I don't think this is again, the left is playing drama queen over a lot of it. I don't think that they're just going to throw every single bit of it out and, the people that would be most affected, just too bad. I don't think it's going to be a situation like that at all. All we can do, though, because we're just pawns, all we can do is watch the chessboard. And, if we see things like that do take it too far, then it's our job as we the people to raise hell about it. That's what our job is. Our job is to watch them and raise hell if they get out of line. And I have seen so many things. We'll just see how it goes. I think that what we're in for is mostly good stuff, but all we can do is wait and see, and again, raise hell if that's not the case. And I do believe that if enough of us raise hell, that we can get things changed. I've seen it happen before, so I'm sure it can happen again. So anyway, I better get started on these because, like I said, I've got quite a few links to go over. And I want to talk a moment about this documentary because this was incredible. By a long shot. That's the term I'm going to use. By a long shot. This is the best documentary, the most riveting documentary that I have ever watched in my life. And believe me, I have watched a ton of documentaries. I would rather watch a documentary than I would a regular movie. I don't know. I'm just not that. Unless it's something really super good, I'm not thrilled with throwing away an hour and a half to 2 hours of my life watching something meaningless when I could be watching, if I'm going to be watching something, I could be watching something that will enrich me, that will teach me, that I will learn from. I know I'm a complete weirdo. That's just how I am. But it's got to be something, as far as just a regular movie, it's got to be something I really want to watch, to be quite honest. I did catch, so I saw Homestead, the movie from Angel Studios. I saw that a little while back, shortly after it came out. And it was meh, it was somewhat entertaining, but it missed a lot of things as far as accuracy. And I finally, because it took me a while to be able to see them, there's a series that they did. So they did the movie, and then to continue on from the movie, there's a series. However, they've only got two episodes out for the series. So, all I can say is this: they're okay, and I would put them in the same category as the movie. Again, I'm talking about Homestead. They're okay. They're mildly entertaining, but they're wholly inaccurate. For one, I think it's the rat tourniquet. Somebody was shot in the arm, which, by the way, when you watch it, they're clearly shot in the chest, not like the main part, but like in the upper arm area. Well, upper shoulder. Sorry, let me clear that up. Upper shoulder area. But whenever they go to start medical attention, it's suddenly it's the arm that was shot, and and I think it was a rat tourniquet that they put on it or whatever. It's the one that looks like a rope, kind of looks like a rope, just got a little metal piece on it. Anyway, yeah, I looked at that and I'm like, who the hell uses one of those, But anyway, I will say, without a doubt, Cat 7, as far as tourniquets, Cat 7's where it's at. So anyway, back to this movie, or this documentary I was talking about. The most amazing, by a long shot, documentary I've ever seen. And I am talking about, it's called The Twister, Caught in the Storm. And there it is. It is indeed on Netflix. Sorry to tell you. No, we don't have Netflix. We gave up our Netflix some time ago. The biggest reason, to be honest, why we gave up our Netflix is because they raised the price again. And I'm sorry, I'm just not there. What little they have to offer that's worth watching wasn't worth what they were raising the price to. Now, we didn't have the cheap plan. We had the bigger plan, or what I think the big plan, actually. I think they raised it to like $25 or something like that. And I'm sorry, but Netflix just is not worth that. I see on the screen here, they say plans start at just $7.99. Hell, if I'm not mistaken, when we signed up for the big plan or whatever, I think it was like $9.99. So it's just like, or it might have been the $7.99. I'm not positive, but Netflix just isn't worth it. It's, in my opinion. However, whichever way that you can get an opportunity to see this documentary, do so. It is extremely good. Here's the thing. I will put the warnings out there just as much as I'll tell you how good it is. It's 99% incredible. Off the charts incredible. But it's 1% interwoven with wokeness. So I'll warn you of that. And especially towards the end of it, there's a pretty heavy slap of wokeness, talking to one of the people. But it's, again, like just such a small part of it that absolutely don't forego watching it just because of those moments. There's way more than those moments. It was incredible. And I will say that roughly half of the documentary, and it's not just a half an hour, 45 minutes, it's like an hour and a half documentary. I would say around half of it, if not a little bit more, you'll be on the edge of your seat. You will absolutely be on the edge of your seat. You will be asking yourself at the end of the documentary, how in the hell did some of those people make it? Pretty incredible stuff. So, again, I'll show it again real quick. It's titled The Twister, Caught in the Storm. It's on Netflix. I believe it's like their documentary. So, however it is that you have an opportunity to see it, I have an opportunity outside of Netflix. That's all I'm going to say. Probably obvious. Coffee. That's obvious too. Love coffee. And deer. I like deer too. Me and Blue. See, I got deer on the brain. Me and Blue finished off a deer stick earlier today, and oh my goodness, she's as crazy about it as what I am. I mean, she just gets little bitty bites, but oh my goodness, I love deer sausage. So, yesterday I made deer chili. That was awesome. Anyway, nothing like Bambi in a pot. So, let's get started on these headlines. And a lot of them's going to deal with Russia-Ukraine nonsense, but not all of them. I mean, however, the nonsense we're starting out with, it's some pretty big nonsense. EU states issue warnings to U.S.-bound trans travelers. I mean, it's insane. Check this out. Finland, Denmark, and Germany have issued warnings to transgender and non-binary individuals traveling to the U.S. after President Donald Trump enacted a policy recognizing only two sexes. Since taking office, Trump has issued multiple orders affirming this new approach and has directed the U.S. Health Department to clarify sex-based definitions. The new guidance defines sex as an immutable biological trait and states that individuals should be classified strictly as male or female. Yeah? An update on the Danish Foreign Ministry's U.S. travel page posted on Thursday advises trans individuals to contact the U.S. Embassy in Copenhagen before traveling. And I will explain why I say that's important. If your passport has the gender designation X or you have changed gender, it is recommended to contact the U.S. Embassy prior to travel for guidance on how to proceed, the Danish Foreign Ministry's page reads. The change on Denmark's travel page came about a week after Finland issued a similar update. While it doesn't explicitly reference Trump's executive order, the advisory notes there are two gender designations to choose from, male or female, when applying for a visa or electronic system for travel authorization approval. So, here's the thing. I don't know how that shakes out. If you're a foreigner, you're trying to get a visa to come here to visit, I don't know nothing about that. Never traveled to another country, don't have a passport. And I would do exactly what that says, contact somebody to see how you proceed. But beyond that, let's talk about beyond that. It is extremely important that they can identify what sex you are, what biological sex you are, not what you were changed to, not what you feel like that day, but what you are. And why? Well, this is going to be a shocker, I know, but men and women's bodies are different. And it doesn't matter if you're a woman and they somehow give you a wang. It doesn't matter. You still got ovaries on the inside. You still got all your female parts on the inside. That there are differences in a man and a woman. That is important biologically in case you were to get into an accident or anything else. I mean, that stuff's important. They need to know this stuff. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on the internet. But I can tell you for a fact that there are different things that could lead to some very, very bad situations if they think they're operating on one sex and they're operating on the other and they don't know it ahead of time. Could be some very bad things happen. If you got wounds to your upper body or something like that, doctors not necessarily going to yank your pants off to look at your genitals and try to figure out whether they're natural genitals or sewn on or strapped on or whatever the case. The doctor's not going to do that. Just not going to do that. There could be huge issues arise if that doctor or any medical professional cannot make that distinction. So, to me, that's a common sense thing. I don't know, but I think there's a lot of fear-mongering going on with this. I think a lot of it's just trying to poke at the United States and try to tell the world about how so bad and evil we are. I mean, don't pay no attention that the very people that these people are supporting, you know, and I'm not saying I'm against them on this, not at all, because I do align when it comes to this. But they're coming out in support of Palestinians, right? And I distinctly said Palestinians, not Hamas. They're coming out in support of Palestinians. Do you know what Muslims do to people like that? I mean, it's not wholly uncommon for them to throw them off the roof of a building, and that's no exaggeration. That's what happens, right? But the United States is getting all the bad juju just simply because we want a clear distinction as to what gender you are, whatever. I mean, it is are. I don't get it. You can't just go and do that. I mean, you can't just go through whatever hormone therapy, whatever surgeries or whatever. I mean, to think that you have actually became the opposite gender, you've got mental issues. And it's literally listed as gender dysphoria. It's an actual mental issue. It's been a mental issue for a very, very long time. And no matter how much you want to be that opposite gender, doesn't matter. You're not. You're not. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just mind-blowing. I mean, it's just ignorant. Just absolutely ignorant. What these people need is proper mental health care. Period. That's not saying force them, if they're a man, that's not saying force them to dress as a man. Not at all. You know? I mean, if they're really that determined to dress as a female, I'm talking about males, then so be it. But they still need the proper medical care, and that is not hormone therapies and plastic surgery. That is mental health care. Because the only thing you do when you enable a mental health problem is make the problem worse. And this is something that psychology has known for a very long time. That's why you see a lot of these individuals, these trans individuals, they're very, very sad. They're very, some of them are very, very angry. The suicide rate amongst them is incredible. And believe it or not, it's not because of the outside pressure. It's because they have gender dysphoria, which is a very, very serious mental illness. Just like schizophrenia. If it's moderate or worse schizophrenia, that's a very serious mental issue that has to be dealt with. Has to be dealt with. What happens if you enable that? What happens if you enable schizophrenia? Let's change the condition again. Howdy, Jason. Let's change the condition. What happens if you enable schizophrenia? What happens if somebody that is constantly thinking that people are out to get them, people are out to harm them, what happens if you enable that? Is it possible that person might flip out someday and go take the life of other people? Not because that's what they want to do, but because they're mentally ill. And they had an episode and they thought something that wasn't true, or they may have even heard or saw something that wasn't true and reacted to it. That's a very real situation. It's no different. It is really no different. That's why you get people like in Tennessee that walk into a school, young trans person walk into a school and take the life of a bunch of kids because they're mentally ill. It needs to be treated as such, and it's not, I'm not being derogatory, I'm not downing on them. I have mental illness. A lot of us have mental illness. While I won't agree, like the psychology folks say, that 70% or better of people have mental illness. I won't necessarily agree with that. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's quite that bad. I mean, it might be getting there now, but I think that a lot of the mental illness that we see today aren't conditions that are a result of imbalances or anything like that. I think people have been propagandized to death, and I think they've been dramaed to death, and I think that people are just way too emotional today. I don't think that they're taught to be in control of their emotions. So there's a difference than actually having a mental illness and not having people that love you enough to not enable you. So, I mean, I've been on a lot of these boats, so I've had enablers. I've had, and I can tell you that has never helped me. Enabling me had never helped me. Being real with me and then letting me deal with that reality, that's what's important. That's what's important. Always got to be there, stand by, but don't enable. That's dangerous territory. So, I think, again, they're doing everything they can to put down the United States, and I think JD really pissed them off when he went over there and he talked about freedom and freedom of speech. I think he really pissed a lot of people off, and I support JD when he did that 100%, because that's what we're supposed to be representing, and just because they got lost doesn't mean that we have to get lost too. That's just insanity. Crazy if you see the stuff they're doing over there, like in Germany and all that, the people that they're arresting just for the crazy stuff. I mean, look at what's happening in Turkey. I don't know if it was last night's headline or if it was one that I don't. Oh, no, actually, it's the next story. See how that works? So anyway, well, not this one, but the following one. I got another one here for you. I better keep rolling or else I won't be able to get all these in. Greenland's PM denounces aggressive pressure by the U.S. Says Prime Minister of Greenland has hit out at the U.S. following the announcement that Second Lady Usha Vance and senior American officials will visit the island on Thursday. The administration of U.S. President Donald Trump is pursuing control over the autonomous Danish territory and its resources. Mute B. Edge, I don't know how that's pronounced, described the upcoming trip, reportedly involving National Security Advisor Michael Waltz and Energy Secretary Chris Wright, as part of a very aggressive American pressure aimed at taking our country over our heads. In an interview with local newspaper Sermitsiak, I don't know, on Sunday, Edge criticized Western nations for inadequately tongue-tied there, opposing the U.S., stating, our allies in the international community feel like hiding in a small corner and almost whisper their support, which has no effect. We'll see. Again, the United States right now, largely on the world stage, has a big target on it as far as condemnation and everything. Because they all want to be about something different, something that goes completely against true traditional American values. And, I'm proud to say that there are many of us Americans that are willing to stand up for those true American values. We know the importance of freedom. We know the value of freedom. And we also know the price of freedom. That's why Americans would never give their guns up. All the rest of these other countries did, and now look at what happens. Now in Germany, you get arrested just for for speaking your opinion on the internet. You don't even have to be derogatory. You can just speak in opposition, and they're coming and picking you up. And how are they allowed to do that? because the people can't do anything back. You know, there's a lot of people say, well, what are you going to do with a rifle? What are you going to do with a pistol? Oh, a whole hell of a lot. A whole hell of a lot. You think in the desert over in the Middle East that they had all this super high-tech advanced weaponry? And how long did we fight that? 20 years? A rifle, a pistol, you can do a whole hell of a lot when it comes to defending what's right. Without it, though, get on the train. Anywho, we were talking about the craziness that's going on over there across the pond. This story, and I guess this is Middle East, be considered Middle East. I have a vape. It's in my hand taunting me. You know, one of these years, I'm going to have to get out my new one because this thing is like falling apart. Much like me, except I don't have a new me. I do have a new mod, though. This thing lasted me a while. If I can get some good glue, I can just glue it and use it for another couple of years, probably. The front panel cracked, just the, aesthetic front panel, and it keeps trying to pop off on me. I'm out of epoxy, 2-part epoxy. That's what I would use on it. Need to get some good 2-part epoxy and fix it up. Okay. I have other kinds of glues, but they're not like 2-part epoxies. They're not near as good. You glue something with 2-part epoxy, it ain't coming apart again. Okay. Next up. Talking about the craziness across the pond. Arrested Erdogan rival wins presidential nomination. Another one of those names. I screwed this one up royally the other day. Ekrem İmamoğlu. Yeah, I'm probably nowhere in the ballpark, but that's okay. The jailed former mayor of Istanbul and potential rival to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has secured the opposition party's presidential nomination for the 2028 election. The Republican People's Party announced on Sunday. Okay, you notice he's Red Team party member, and he's, in jail, right? CHP chairman Özgür Özel said nearly 15 million people voted in the party's primaries in support of İmamoğlu's candidacy despite his arrest earlier this week. Kind of reminds me of, some country's president. The number of votes Mr. Ekrem İmamoğlu, maybe I should just call him Elmer Glue, received from our members and the Solidarity ballot box is over 14.8 million, Özel said at a rally in Istanbul. The vote came just hours after Elmer's Glue, I'm going to do that, Elmer's Glue, he was formally arrested and suspended from office. He was detained on Wednesday in a sweeping corruption probe and now faces charges of extortion, bribery, and alleged ties to the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, which Turkey designates a terrorist group. Elmer's Glue has denied all wrongdoing. I can't sit here and tell you if any of these claims are true, the extortion, bribery, and ties to the Kurdistan Workers' Party. I can't tell you anything about the Kurdistan Workers' Party, right? I do know this, because I live here in the United States. I watched one political party do absolutely everything they could do to imprison a former president, and during his first term, they did everything they could do to impeach him. And I know that a lot of their claims were bogus. The 34 felonies that the left taunts about, that is insane. That is literally insane. So when I read something like this, I can't get a position on it, because I know, I mean, I would, maybe I'm not old enough to know better, even at 52, but in my lifetime, I have never seen anything like this that's going on. Not just in this country, but around the globe. And it seems like it's happening pretty much everywhere. Very crazy times. Very absolute crazy times. And it goes to support what I've been saying about the magnetic poles and everything else, because that screws with people's psyche really bad. And so a lot of this adds up. It adds up to the user manual for people, known as the Bible. It just adds up completely across the board. So just kind of hang on. I'm not, you know me, I'm not one to fearmonger or anything like that, but I've never told you not to prepare. I've never told you not to be prepared. Speaking of that, I did post the second video over on Militant Geek Preparedness. The link to that channel is actually in the description of this video. I just basically had to clean the filters after 9 years? I think 9 years. I hate speaking something, and it'd take me a second. I think 9 years, possibly 8, that we've been running the same Berkey filter elements in my DIY Berkey filter, and I just keep cleaning them. 5 years. See, I'm way off. 5 years. What did I say initially? 9? What the hell? Who put the crack in my wheat? No. Anyway, 5 years. 2020 was when we bought those Berkeys, and I've been running them 5 years. And they tell you about 6 months, replace them. I just kept cleaning them. And so anyway, today I cleaned them again, because I do it about every 6 months. And the last time that I cleaned them, I wasn't happy with the performance, so I wound up soaking them in vinegar for a little while, which really improved it. And today I cleaned them again, and I did not do the vinegar thing, and the performance is really bad. So yeah, it's time to replace them. And unfortunately, those suckers these days are not cheap. Let me show you. And I think this is just because if you go to their website, if you go to the Berkey website, it will say that they're out of stock. And let's see. There you go. See? I told you. 2020. $312 just for those 2 black carbon elements. Yeah, homie's not about that. Homie's not about that at all. I do think that they've got newer ones that are much cheaper, and I've heard that they're better. I don't know. I haven't looked into them yet. $311 though. That is like mind-blowingly insane. Oh, wow, I didn't see this earlier when I made the video. I made a video, by the way. Sorry, I got off topic. I cleaned the filters, and I when I had it torn apart, I made a video of putting it back together, but I explained how I did it, so that way folks could do it for themselves. But yeah, these are the black elements I used, and as you see, purchased in 2020. These are the heavy metal fluoride filters that I use. So they're currently $103. So, and you can buy cheaper brands. I can tell you that initially when I built that filter, I did buy a cheaper brand, and when I was tightening the nut up on the filter, the nipple of the filter broke off, which renders it completely useless. They were nice enough to refund my money for those, and I shipped them back. and that's when I went ahead and bought the Berkeys, which weren't $312. So, but they make white ones now that are much cheaper, and I'm not seeing them here. Hang on, I'll show you. That way, folks know. All I got to do is click right here, visit the Berkey store, and be careful when you buy water filters, because there are definitely counterfeit filters out there in the market. And right now with the price, with the price of filters, they're going to be counterfeits all over. Where in the heck is their Elements? Huh. Trying to find their Elements. That's what I was on. That's weird. I was on their website earlier, and they've got a bunch more options now. Hang on. Gives me a moment. Let me, I think it might have been here. So, yeah. They've got these white ones here. Oh, that's British Berkfield. Yeah, I don't think this was the place that I had went. Hang on. There were two links that came up. Okay. Now these say that they're all in one. So you could go that route. This is a British Berkfield, though. That's not Berkey. There's Berkey. And here they're showing that the black... Oh, sold out, though. So they're saying they're not Berkey, but they are... they say that they're the ones that do both the fluoride and... the regular filtration like the carbon ones do. So, 68, well, that's for one. I need two. So, $136 for the set. That's a hell of a lot cheaper. So, but there was that other website, this one. I don't know. It's kind of weird. There's two websites, and I know I've been told one of them's kind of So this is the other website, and you're seeing the same thing, the British Berkfield, which is not, I don't believe that's Berkey, but $136 for those two filters. So yeah, kind of crazy. But I made that video, so if you want to know how I put our gravity field water system together, that video is available. Let me move on, because holy hell, I've got I try to be done about 9. I've got 16 minutes left, and I've still got 6 tabs open. So let me try to run through them. Kiev wants Trump envoy sacked. Says U.S. President Donald Trump's a special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, who has played a central role in opening negotiations on resolving the Ukraine conflict, is spreading Russian propaganda, telling the truth, and should be sacked, according to a senior Ukrainian lawmaker. The head of the Kiev's Foreign Affairs Committee, Alexander Meretsko, made the remark in response to Witkoff's interview with American journalist Tucker Carlson, during which the envoy spoke about the status of former Ukrainian territories that have joined Russia, describing the issue as an elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about. Says the Russian-speaking, there have been referendums where the overwhelming majority of people have indicated that they want to be under Russian rule, Witkoff said. And that's true. They've even had referendums. And that's what was decided upon. Oh, but those referendums were cheats. Oh, you mean like the 2020 election? Yeah, we know something about that. I don't think they were, because these are primarily Russian-speaking people. These are people that have long wanted to be a part of Russia. These are people that the Ukrainian government has mistreated for a very long time. So it's not a far stretch to say that, Oh, well, I skipped a story. So it's not too far-fetched to say that that's not Russian propaganda and that these folks want to be a part of Russia. I get it. I understand it. I actually went to the back of the list. I meant to go to the front of the list. This is what I meant to do. Israeli diplomat suggests killing off teenagers in Gaza in a leaked video. This here says Israel's ambassador to Austria, David Rowett, has insisted that Palestinian teenagers in Gaza should be put to death if they are spotted carrying a weapon, according to a leaked recording that went viral on social media last week. And I know there'd be a lot of people in this country who'd be like, damn right, damn right. And then the same people hang a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, next to the blue line flag because they don't have common sense and don't understand it. So how would they like that? How would an American, a Second Amendment supporter, a conservative, red team member, whatever you want to call them, how would they like it if this country was in war, here, not somewhere else, and the orders was to shoot them on sight if they had a weapon? Wouldn't be so cool, would it? Not at all. That's what I do in all of these instances, and that's how I wind up having such different takes than a lot of people on this stuff, because I'm going to take a moment, I'm going to try my best to put myself in those shoes and look at it from that angle, because you know what? Sitting there being an armchair quarterback on anything isn't doing anybody any good, not even yourself. Because if you don't understand the reality yourself, man, oh, how did I get to that? Sorry. I didn't mean to click the... I've got one screen that's all it is, a black screen. Hope you could hear me. Yeah, you could. Okay. I wanted to take a look around, look over and see if you could hear me while that was on. I rearranged my tabs on my tablet for the different screens. Still getting used to that. Sorry about that. However, we wouldn't think that was too cool at all if our nation was at war and we wasn't allowed to be able to carry firearms to protect ourselves and our loved ones, our neighborhoods, what have you. That wouldn't be cool at all. There again, at the same time, in complete reality, I don't expect the enemy to give us a pass because we're not military and we're carrying around arms. See what I'm saying? So there's kind of two sides here. As far as the Israeli side is concerned, I could see why they want to take out anybody they see with a weapon. That's just the horror of war. That's just sad. Hey, why do war? Nobody can really answer that, except for the canned responses like, oh, war is about resources, which is largely true. But if we're willing to go to war over resources, then maybe we need to work on being better people. Just, I mean, I'm not supposed to come and shoot you so I could take your house, right? That's not cool. So why would it be any better or any more okay for me to go shoot somebody in a different country so I could take their house? That's not cool either. So, I don't know. I've got one of those crazy theories that maybe if we stop killing each other and try a little harder to work together, nobody would be in need. Plain and simple. But try to get the masses to understand that. Okay. 4 more articles. 9 more minutes. I'm probably not going to be able to do it. UK military slams Ukraine, quote-unquote, peacekeeping or caping, whatever you want to say, plan as political theater, says Telegraph. That deer sausage is coming back to say hello. Which is fine with me. Somebody's all relaxed on the blue time. She's waiting me to shut up and quit the show so we can go snuggle after our race. We have to have a race every night now, so it's just a thing. We race to the bedroom. Most amazing dog ever. Anyway, the article goes on to say, UK military officials have dismissed Prime Minister Keir Starmer's proposal for deploying Western troops to Ukraine as part of a peacekeeping force to oversee a potential ceasefire, the Telegraph reported on Sunday. Senior military sources told the outlet that Starmer had got ahead of himself. Starmer announced the initiative earlier this month, aiming to build a coalition of the willing to support Ukraine militarily. Last week, he claimed that multiple countries backed the idea of sending in a peacekeeping force of up to 10,000 troops, despite Moscow's opposition to any Western deployments in the conflict zone. London hosted planning talks last week with military officials from partner nations. However, military sources dismissed the plans as premature and politically motivated. Absolutely. There's a quote here, there is no defined military end state or military strategic planning assumptions. It's all political theater, one senior Army official told the outlet. So, I do think that it's a lot of barking with no bite. First of all the Western nations are in a very compromised position right now, especially like Europe and the UK, because of how much weapons they gave Ukraine already. So they have drawn down their stocks massively. And we did too. However, I don't think we're as bad off as what it may appear, because a lot of the weapons that we do give to like Ukraine are outdated and old weapons. We got a whole lot of stuff, folks, to think for a second that we don't have a whole lot of stuff that you and I don't know nothing about. That would be foolish. And the same goes for Russia. To say that Russia doesn't have a whole bunch of stuff that hadn't been deployed, that we'd never seen. And when I say we, I mean anybody on the planet aside from Russian military. Again, that would be foolish. There's a whole lot more toys in the toy box. It's like you don't show your best card, I guess would be a good example. Don't show your cards. And certainly don't pull, your best card out and throw it down for everybody to see right in the beginning, And again, that's probably a poor analogy. I'm not a card player, but, you have to be limited with that. You have to, it's not about ego. It's not about, any of that kind of stuff. You go and fight a war with your chest puffed out, all about ego. You underestimate your enemies, and you pull your biggest card out of your deck and slap it down on the table first. It's probably not going to end well for you. Because as the conflict continues on, they're going to find a way to defeat whatever new weapon it is that you put on the table. Look at what's happening in Ukraine. That's exactly what's been going on. Both sides. Ukraine's getting better defending against, the new weaponry that they're dealing with. And Russia's doing better likewise with the newer weaponry that Ukraine's coming up with. Ukraine, from what I can tell, are doing a pretty damn good job at building drones. From everything I can tell, It seems like they're doing pretty good at that. It seems like they're fairly effective. I mean, if they can get drones in and hit the places that they've been hitting, that's not ineffective. They're doing, they're doing the job for sure. Maybe not as well or as much as what they would hope, but hey, Okay. And this is a good example of that. Let me have a sip real quick, a couple of vapes. I do have a good example here. Kiev, didn't switch it over. Kiev attacks internationally operated oil pipeline in Russia, says Moscow. Says an armed Ukrainian drone was shot down overnight near an oil pumping station in Russia operated by an international company, the Russian Defense Ministry has said. The interception reportedly occurred early Monday around 7 kilometers from the Kropotkinskaya, facility, which is part of the energy link managed by the Caspian Pipeline Consortium. The ministry stated that the station was the intended target of the drone, citing a prior attack against it in mid-February. The CPC includes major U.S. oil companies such as Chevron and ExxonMobil among its stakeholders and primarily facilitates the export of Kazakh oil through Russian territory. Moscow characterized the incident as yet another violation of the U.S.-mediated partial ceasefire under which both Moscow and Kiev committed to, refraining from strikes on energy infrastructure. So, and I think we're going to see, quite a bit more of this. I think Ukraine is going to continue to attack Russian energy infrastructure, and I do think that we'll still continue to see patience from Putin, because this really, truly, it's only making Ukraine look bad. It's, about the truth. It's not about what the propagandists out there, like that are in the EU and UK, it's not about what they've got to say. It's about the reality of it, When people look back on this stuff, I was telling Jen, I mentioned earlier about that documentary about the Joplin tornado. And I said, the shame about that documentary is 10 years in the future, people are going to watch that. And those little snippets of the wokeness, people are going to look at and go, what the hell? Why? That was weird. Why would you put that in your documentary about a tornado? 10 years from now, people are going to ask that. Because I really do believe that woke is gone. Woke is done. It is dead. People will continue to try to push it, but I think that it's going to have an increasing amount of opposition. You've got a lot of people right now that would normally keep quiet, that normally would stay out of it, not get involved or anything like that. And there's a lot of those people starting to speak up now and saying, no, enough is enough. I mean, you're in the school systems, you're on every damn, TV show, commercial, enough is enough, And in 10 years, I think there's going to be a lot of people, just like we look back, right? We look back at things that happened 10, 20, 30 years ago, and we, what the hell, I mean, just think about the Tide Pod thing, about kids eating Tide Pods, right? Think about that. That was the coolest thing for the kids at the time. I'm sure it was. I don't get it, but I wasn't a young kid. But now even the Tide Podders, if you will, I guarantee you even them are kind of looking back on, why were we such big idiots? You know what I'm saying? All generations have trends that they look back upon and think of the mullet. Right? The mullet. That was from my generation. I rocked a mullet, right? So I think back of the mullet days and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? You know what I mean? So, because I had a hell of a mullet. I had hair halfway down to my back, the sides of my head shaved, and I was a freak. So, Anyway, done with that one. And now this is my biggest issue. This next one here is actually my biggest issue with Ukraine. Personally, my biggest issue. And it makes no sense to me why the left supports them. Makes no sense at all. It's mind-blowingly ignorant. Because this is a fact. This is not propaganda. This is a fact. It says Nazis in Ukraine nurtured by Europeans, says Lavrov. European NATO members are willfully ignoring the Nazi character of the Ukrainian government, which they have empowered as an anti-Russian instrument, Russian Foreign Ministry Sergei Lavrov has asserted. Now, that's not a far-fetched thing, because the United States can't say that they didn't support groups like the Taliban. They can't say that, because the United States, via a proxy war, supported the Taliban against Russia for a long damn time. This is something that happens, okay? These are games that governments play. Anyway, it goes on to say, on Monday, the senior diplomat expressed concern over the demons of neo-Nazism, Russophobia, and other hateful ideologies spreading across multiple EU nations. Member states are deliberately overlooking Kiev's misconduct, even as it persecutes ethnic Russians and violates human rights, he stressed. Ukraine, that's different. Those Nazis have been nurtured for the latest attempt to unite all of Europe under racist Nazi banners for a war against the Russian Federation, Lavrov stated. And that is largely what's going on. But I honestly think that if the current trend keeps up, I don't think it's going to turn out well, especially for the EU. Because, man, there's a lot of nations that are looking very skeptical right now with what the EU stance is on things. And I think that's going to continue. And I think the more that they press, the more skeptical other nations and other nations are going to start to become skeptical that aren't currently. And I don't think it's going to work well for the EU if they don't knock it off. Because we can't live in a world like that, to where things are just so wildly mischaracterized. We can't live in a world like that. When you've got, nations or even large groups of people that want to live in a false mindset and want to demand that everybody else lives in that false mindset, it is what it is. Yeah, Hetty Hayes. Yeah, brother, I don't know how long ago. Let me put up timestamps, sorry. Oh, okay, I just looked down and seen that. Yeah, it is crazy, man. It is absolutely crazy. Let's see. This, what are you talking about, the 2-job thing? Not sure what you're talking about, brother. Oh, Leo. I'm sorry, brother. I thought it was Hetty Hayes that made a second comment, and I'm like, wait a minute here. We were talking about the Presbyterian Church, and now we're talking about 2 jobs. Sorry, man. I I misidentified you. Oh, man. Hope you guys are doing well. This news is crazy. Absolutely insane. It really is. But yeah, that's why I personally am not a fan of Ukraine, because they are literally the government. I'm not talking about the people. The government are literally Nazis. I mean, there's no way to get around that. Let's see. What was my beep, beep, beep, beep, beep? I get like tons of, you identify as a job. I hear you, man. I've been there, I've done that. Been there, done that. I get into the jobs that I do. I do. Um, I was always taught that it didn't matter if you were the trash man. You be the best damn trash man that you can be. My my uncle told me that when I was a kid yet, before I was old enough to even start working. And I took it to heart. I really, truly took it to heart. And McDonald's wasn't my first job. I had actually worked in junior high. I worked in the school cafeteria. I believe it was my study hall that I had given up, and I could work for the school. And I can't remember what it was I made. It was somewhere between $1 and $1.50, I think it was, a day, and I only worked 1 hour, and it didn't give me much. I saved up for like a little over a month actually, just to buy a string control Cox airplane that I could fly around. Crashed that sucker pretty quick, but yeah, I that was my first job. But McDonald's technically was my second job. And even then, even flipping burgers in the back of McDonald's, I took it seriously. When I was sober enough to take it seriously. And then when I worked at Hardee's, I took that job seriously. When I left Hardee's, that's when I went to Highland Supply Corporation, was a machine operator, still going to high school, worked, I actually worked 48 hours a week. I worked 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, while I was a senior in high school. And I took that job seriously. I've taken every job I've ever worked seriously. So, I know a lot about that. Absolutely. I hear you. Well, that's great if you look forward to going to work. That's awesome, actually. Country grocery store first job, huh? Cleaning a grease trap under. Yeah, I hear you, brother. Or pulling the grills out and cleaning behind them, or making sure that the hoods above the grill where the filters go in, making sure that those were spick and span because we had somebody coming in to inspect and all that. Oh man, I know all about that. Did plenty of that. Some of the managers at Hardee's was cool. If you caught a break, they didn't care if you stepped out back and had a smoke. Other ones, if you weren't flipping burgers or taking orders or whatever, because when I worked Hardee's, I worked like every position. Literally started there as outside maintenance. Then they rooked me into doing food prep, the solids and stuff like that, getting them ready for the next day. And then they wound up rooking me into working the back line, cooking. And before it was all said and done with, I worked front line, I worked drive-through. And they were getting ready to start training me for crew leader when I got shit canned. So that was an interesting thing. I got fired over horses, believe it or not. I know you might wonder, was he feeding people horse meat? No, it wasn't anything like that. I worked overnights, and newspaper guy came in to drop off newspapers, and he dropped them off. There was a box outside, and he dropped them off, and normally he just went on. But that morning, he had came in, and he said, "Hey, you guys know you got a bunch of horses grazing in the back lot?" No. And so a buddy of mine, I was on my lunch break at the time, a buddy of mine was visiting, and me and him walked outside. Now, I'd not been around horses, but maybe a couple of short moments in my life. And here, his girlfriend was like, they had horses. She was a horse fanatic and all that, and I cannot believe that he did this. But we were walking kind of towards the horses, and my buddy Todd, rest in peace, brother, he's no longer with us, unfortunately. He dropped his hat, and instead of gently, slowly, smoothly bending over to pick up his hat, he lunged down to pick up his hat and spooked the horses. So they take off running, and there was a road, Highway 40, and they started running alongside the road. Well, as I came around the building, crew leader coming out the side door, I said, they took off towards the road. I'm going to try to keep them off of the road. And his response was, okay. And so that's what I did. And I ran probably close to I would say at least a 3/4 mile, I guess. And of course, I didn't keep up with horses or anything like that. But as I came up to a 4-way stop, Scott, the crew leader, had already called the police to let them know. And so as I was coming up to a 4-way stop, there was a cop that had his car parked in the middle of the intersection. The officer that I know and got along with really well. And he was there. And, I told him what I knew. And they had went over by the high school. I know you don't know these areas, unless you're from here. But, so anyway, Scott, more than anything, the crew leader, he was kind of nosy, wanted to know what was going on. And I guess trying to, get me a ride back. So he sent the cook, her name was Jean, sent the cook to come and get me, to pick me up. Now, this is before cell phones and all that other stuff, so it's not like I could have just picked up a cell phone and called. And so anyway, Jean, she drove a Super Bee, okay? And so, like me, she couldn't keep her foot out of the pedal. And the one thing you don't want to do if horses are around is go barreling down the highway. So what does Jean do? Barrels down the highway. She got loud dual exhaust, straight pipes on this car. And one of the horses didn't make it as far as the other horses. It was lagging behind. And unfortunately, that horse had ran out in front of her vehicle. She had her hand, when she was driving, on top of the steering wheel, and the horse came over the hood in through the windshield and crushed her hand. So she had to have reconstructive surgery on her hand and all that stuff. And the way it works with companies is they have to find a scapegoat. And somehow I became the scapegoat. I lost my job at Hardee's for supposedly leaving the premises without permission, even though when I came around the corner of the building and told the crew leader that I was going to try to keep him away from the highway, he said okay. So it is what it is. They had to have a scapegoat, and since she was the injured party, I guess she couldn't be the scapegoat. So lost my job over that. And then that's when I went to Highland Supply Corporation. Let's see. Getting all kinds of bings again. Let me check this, and I've got one more article left. Wow, I'm 15 minutes over. I got to gabbing about my Hardee's termination horse ordeal. So let that be a lesson to you. When you're at work, no horsing around. Let me catch up with, with what you guys are saying in chat. right on, Layola, about the mean green. You started at the top, went to the bottom. Alrighty, man. Let's see. Gosh, I got all kinds of messages. Yikes. Let me pull that up. The other good reason about not deleting your browser history, you can pull stuff right up. People are like, what? You don't delete your... Nope. I haven't deleted my browser history in over a decade, and I won't. I absolutely won't. Is that the one? Yeah, that's the one. 6.8 earthquake, 159 kilometers west-southwest of Riverton something. So yeah, New Zealand. Riverton, New Zealand. Yeah, it's a kind of a healthy earthquake. How deep was it? 10 kilometers. So, yikes, man. Coffee. Nicotine. Because without those two things, I fail to exist. Alright, last article. Russia honoring energy strike truce despite Ukraine's violations, says Kremlin. Says here Russia will continue, this is what I was talking about earlier, Russia will continue to uphold the moratorium on strikes against Ukrainian energy infrastructure despite Kiev's numerous violations, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has said. Speaking to reporters on Monday, Peskov stated that Moscow is still abiding by the partial ceasefire deal despite Ukraine's strikes on Russian energy facilities. So, and like I said, he's going to be, I think, my prediction is that Putin's going to continue to be patient about this, and it's going to wind up making Ukraine look bad. I had a moron in our local town group today, just a drunk, and he he had rejoined. He had once been a member, and I guess left because, you know, we're too real for him. And he had left. I don't know when he left. Don't really care. But he joined back up because I guess he found a child's ring in a parking lot, and he wanted to make a post, see if he could find the owner. And claims that he had found the owner, and decided to try to start being a jackass, right? And so my same that you see on the thumbnail for the shows of the picture of me with the tinfoil hat, I've got that on my Facebook profile image as well. And so he brought that up, and first off, he had made some comment, and he ended it with old man. Now, I don't know how old this dude is, but he looks like he's quite a bit older than me. And I'm pretty sure he's a drunk. And I simply said, what are you, drunk? I said, you're older than me. And I said, the tinfoil hat is a joke, much like you. And he replied to, this is what he said. This is why I fucking hate you. You run a group and you're such a dickhead. And it's just like, wait a minute, you start shit with me and then cry victim because I respond? Now what mindset is that? Sounds to me like a lib. That's the typical liberal mindset. So, I don't know what to tell him. So he thought he was going to be, you know, all that in a bag of chips, but nah. Him and his 5 friends, literally, I'm not exaggerating, 5 friends on Facebook. Probably needs to put the bottle down, be a little bit of a better human being. Maybe more people will talk to him. But that is what it is. Alright, that's the articles I've got for you. A little bit of overtime tonight. I am going to get out of here because I'm probably 3 or 4 huffs deep by now from the dog. She's got a strict 9 o'clock, we better be heading to the bedtime. And she lets me know about it. So anyway, I am going to be out of here. I hope y'all have a great night. God willing, we will see you tomorrow night. Same bat channel, same bat time. And, or is that batshit crazy? Yeah, that's probably batshit crazy. Anyway, I will talk to you all tomorrow night. I hope you have a good one. And as always, shalom.